What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. This is the J&J Boxing Podcast, and I'm here with Aaron Joshua. My name's Jordan Henderson, and we're here to break it down to you. So, we're going to round off this year of boxing, and we're going to we'll start off with knockout of the year. So, what is your knockout of the year?
Do you know what? I've been going back and forward. There's been big knockouts. Obviously, we've seen Zhang put Joyce down, Joshua knockout Hellenius. There's been big knockouts, but ooh, I'm not being biased, but I'm tempted to say knockout of the year was Joshua versus Hellenius.
Mm-hmm.
That's my one personally. I think I think it's knockout of the year because it's like he was setting that shot up from early. You could see he was jabbing down to the body. It's also technique as well. So when he executed it, Helenis was nowhere near getting up. So for me personally, I'll say that was a knockout of the year.
Fair enough. That is very worthy of being a contender, in my opinion. Also because Joshua never really throws the overhand right like that. That's a new
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that seems
yeah,
to be
yeah.
introduced. Now I can definitely see that. For me, that's definitely a consideration. I would have to go with Lee Wood, Maurizio Lara in the first fight when he KO'd Lee Wood,
Oh,
because
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I have to go with that one. One, because it kind of came out of nowhere when he was being outboxed, and just the precision of it. I mean, it's pretty similar to Joshua's KO of Hellenius. It's very close, but I don't know, just the ferocity and the way it happened and the way it kind of came out of nowhere just feels like almost reminiscent of Povetkin knocking out Dillian White.
Yeah.
I'd have to go with that one, but the Joshua one is definitely a worthy one as well. The way he fell, pretty similar, very close, very close. Um, but yeah, the next one for me, I'm gonna see what is your fight of the year.
Ooh, the fight over the year, there's been some really good fights. Obviously, Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, I think that was a really good fight. Even at the lower end of the there's been some good fights this year. I'm not trying to be prisoner of the moment, but good the fight of the year. I'm gonna have to say Lee with Josh Warrington, you know.
Leewood, Josh
Josh
Warrington, yeah.
Warrington, yeah. I'm gonna have to say that's a fight of the year just because it was a competitive, good fight, then it had a spectacular ending. Both guys were in it. So I'll say
Yeah,
that's my fight of the year. What about you?
fair enough. This is one that I'm kind of struggling with. There was so many good fights. Like knockout, I find is more definitive. A fight of the year is a little bit harder. Um, I mean, there are contenders such as I would say Daniel Dubois versus Jerome Miller was
Yeah,
entertaining. I would say I would say Usyk Dubois in its own way was entertaining. You know what? I gotta give it to Dubois. He's in entertaining fights. Um, and then you'd also have other fights. I'm tempted to go with which I think because I remember because obviously Fury and Wilder, well, that was last year, or 2 years ago now. I'm gonna go with Miller Dubois for now. Um, just at the top of my head. But there's so many good fights. I mean, but at the moment I'm going with that. But that is a harder one for me. Um, and do you know why that's harder for me as well? Because there's so many fights that happen every week, and you're looking at small hall shows, you're
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
exactly. Yeah.
higher level. Because when you say fight of the year, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best of the best. The cream of the crop. But I'll go with Dubois Miller for now, just because it had Dubois gassing himself out. It had Miller sort of piling on the pressure, then it had Dubois coming on strong, and then it had the finish at the end as well. Um, let's see what else we got. We have prospect of the year. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think the prospect of the year is Andy Cruz,
Mm-hmm.
lightweight. I watched his recent fight a couple of weeks ago against Giovanni Straffon, who famously knocked out James Tennyson, who Johnny Nelson famously said could beat Javante Davis. But yeah, I would say he is the prospect of the year. In his first fight, he looked good, but in the second fight, I think you could see he's adapting to the pros where he's actually punching through the target now. Definitely made a better significance. So I would say Andy Cruz is my prospect of the year. Um, yeah, in his second fight, I was really impressed what he was doing. His timing is good, his defense was good, and I think he'll be ready for not a world title shot, but the top 10 within a year. Like I would pick him to beat someone like a Cambosos right now.
Yeah, no, he's very impressive. He comes from that amateur schooling as well, and I think that his ceiling is very high. I feel like for me, I mean, I want to say because you got to base it on performance, but then you also want to base it on potential. And I feel like if you're basing it off performance, the it's got to be maybe someone like Andy Cruz or maybe I mean, would you say it's crazy how that guy's name is? Because I'm bashing so many names through my brain right now. The guy, and I know it's an obvious one. The guy that does the Ronaldo celebration is, um,
Oh, Ronaldo celebration.
they're the brothers, and what he fight. He kind of has a Nazim sort of feel to him.
Oh, the brothers. And they do Nazis.
It's gonna be mad. Like people are gonna be crazy, gonna think I'm crazy for forgetting his name. Welterweight, I believe. And he fights on the Sky Cards. Uh, and he
Is it
has
Adam
a.
Azim?
That's it. That's it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
had a few breakthrough fights
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In terms of being a prospect, but I kind of look at someone like Jared Anderson and say, now I know he didn't end up fighting F.A. Jab or Matt Madov, but he fought George Arias, which is, a step up or somewhat because, George Arias is no great shakes, but people were sort of talking about him at one point.
Yeah.
Um, and he did beat Cassius Chaney and he was undefeated and he brought a different style to the table and Jared Anderson dealt with him in 3 rounds.
Yeah, yeah, fair. Yeah, yeah. True.
And not only that, but he stepped up against Charles Martin. Now, people can say what they like about Charles Martin. I think people are basing Charles Martin when they laugh at him and mock him. They're not. They're basing it just off the Anthony Joshua fight. Um, if you look at what Charles Martin has done since the Joshua fight, it's not been too shabby at all. Um, if you look at Charles Martin's resume, he actually whenever he's in with a journeyman, unlike a lot of opponents, he deals with them swiftly. Um, and not only that, he put up a very good performance against Adam Kanowski when Adam Kanowski was a threat. Um, if that was a 12-round fight, he arguably would have won that. Um, he took Gregory Corbin's O, which it's not no great shakes, but then he knocked out Joe Washington decisively.
Yeah.
He was beating Luis Ortiz until he got caught. And Jared Anderson went in there. I think it's fair to say Charles Mine is a solid heavyweight. And he went in
Yeah,
there
he's a solid heavyweight. Solid, like he's yeah, solid heavyweight, definitely.
and Jared Anderson went in there and, I know he had some bumps along the way, but he comprehensively beat Charles Martin. That to me sort of signals the end of the prospect phase and the introduction to the contender phase. Um, and then he beat Rudenko by stoppage, and I believe that was. I mean, Rudenko's been stopped twice now, but for all set intents and purposes, he's only been stopped once. I don't know if you saw the Sorenko stoppage, but
No, I haven't actually.
that was some shenanigans. That was
Okay.
like some early stoppage. That was a load of rubbish. So he's only been stopped once in for all intents and purposes, and he stopped Rudenko, who's a tough journeyman. I feel like in terms of that, and you mix it in with his potential, I would be tempted to say that he is the prospect of the year. Now, I was looking at Jalalov, but he's really disappointed me this year.
Really?
Um,
Not serious. He keeps going back to the amateurs. I think he needs to make his mind up. You're signed with a big promoter. Kind of just got talent. The time you have stepped up, you stop Kanowski, which is a good thing to do as a prospect. So, like you said, I'm disappointed in him.
Yeah, man, your sound is just gone off. We'll keep it rolling, but
Can you hear me?
that's yeah, that's much better, bro. Just
Can you
say
hear
what
me?
you were
Wait, one
saying.
sec. Better now?
Yeah, much better, bro. That's
Okay.
that's back to how it was before. Yeah, just say what you were saying before, if that's cool.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm disappointed with Janilov as well. Janilov stops Kamil Sokolowski, which is a good thing to do as a prospect. No one looks good against him. Look Otto Wallin, for example. That was a very, very close fight. Some people actually think Sokolowski beat Otto Wallin. So for Janilov to dismantle him like that, that's definitely a big thing. But he's not serious. He keeps going back to the amateurs. Like you just have to. I know back in his country, being an amateur is probably more ratings than being a pro, but it's the long term. You need to make sure you go back to the pros, dedicate your craft because amateurs and pros are different. Just come back. You're a good fighter. Got a devastating straight left. Just come back and try and fight people.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's really, he's had two fights this year, and one was against, a guy who's not durable, known not to be durable, and another guy with a journeyman looking record. This isn't a good a good schedule for a fighter that's looking to be the, champion elect. I don't think that this is a good schedule, and I think that at 29 years old, yeah, he's got time, but has he really got the time to be fiddling around with the pros and the amateurs? I would argue not. So I think he really needs to step it up. But going back to because he's got some tools to work with, in terms of prospects coming up, he's one of the best in my opinion. But I really got to go with Jared Anderson because of
Okay.
what I like and I like what I see in terms of his athleticism. His resume has been pretty solid this year. That's a resume. He's got I want to say a resume built. He's basically got he building a resume. That's the phrase I'm looking for. He's
Yeah.
building his resume. I know Jerry Forrest was 2022, but this year George Arias, Charles Martin, and then Rudenko. Yeah, they kind of put him back a bit, but he's building his resume, and I expect him next year to maybe go in there with Ajit Kabayel, someone
Mm.
like that. Um, but yeah, I think Jared Anderson. But again, this is all subjective. We could all have different opinions on these type of things. Who is your fighter of the year?
My fight of the year is Inoue. I know some people might say Terence Crawford, but with me, it's Inoue. He's moved up in weight and become undisputed within two fights. Fought Stephen Fulton, who Stephen Fulton is a very good fighter, by the way. Got very good wins. And going into that fight, a lot of people were picking Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton's very big at the weight, hence why he's moved up now. So Inoue did well to definitely beat him. So I would say my fight of the year is Inoue. He just beat Marlon Tapales bottom Boxing Day, who beat MJ. So both fighters prior to fighting Inoue have come off very good wins. And Inoue beat them, stopped them both, and cleared out, well, not cleared out, but unified all the belts at 122. So I think that's a big, big, big achievement. So my fight of the year is Inoue. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with Inoue. Again, it's a sort of toss up between him and Crawford, but if you're looking at Crawford's resume right here, he's done good things, but he's only for all intents and purposes fought once this year.
Exactly
And
that. That's why I can't do it. Just because you fought once this year, yeah, your win was very good, but once a year to be the fighter of the year, you fought once. It's not good enough
yeah, and how good is Errol Spence Jr. now? Like this
at
is the
this
thing.
stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the only reason. But you have to give him props for facing him. But I feel like that isn't the same Spence Jr. of the past. And I think that maybe Jaron Ennis might beat Spence now. I think there are some other fighters who would beat Spence at welter. So I feel like the win is a good win, a solid win. And the manner in which he did it was brilliant. But I'd have to edge it to a new A. But again, that's a toss up again, very subjective. And I look forward to hopefully seeing Crawford versus Eva Spence in the rematch, although I'm not as enthusiastic about that due to the dominating nature of the win. I would also
Yeah,
be
yeah.
enthusiastic to see him versus Jerome Boots Ennis. So upset of the year.
Ooh, I don't know. This is a very hard one. I would say off the back of my head, I've probably got two. I would say Rabisi Ramirez losing a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago to a relatively unheralded boxer. Me personally, I've never heard of the person he fought before. And I know Rabisi Ramirez lost his debut, but it looked like he really spring back into his step. It looked like he finally mastered the pros, got a mixed balance of. Or the South African fighter, Noshinga, he got
Hmm.
knocked out in 2 rounds by an unknown Mexican. So I'll say it's between them two. Just because it's more high profile, I'll probably say with BC Ramirez losing.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably my upset because I've never heard of Espinoza going into this fight. So for me to wake up and see, oh, Rabisi Ramirez is lost, and the way the fight went as well in terms of Rabisi Ramirez knocked him down, I think in round two, it was very early, knocked him down heavy as well, and then for Espinoza to switch it back, I would say that's my upset of the year. What about you?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I am thinking about that one as well. Maybe Mark Demori losing to Hergovich is my
Yeah,
upset.
yeah. He's got a record of 43-2, so you never know.
That was Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson all over again. But in all seriousness, I mean, again, there's loads and loads of upsets that have happened this year. I mean, I don't think Lee Wood beating Maurizio Lara was that much of an upset. Obviously the first fight was quite it wasn't definitive because Lee Wood was outboxing him. This is the thing. Lee Wood was actually outboxing Lara and then he got stopped. So I wouldn't call that upset of the year. I feel like I mean, hindsight's 2020, so like we can look here now and think, oh well, we should have seen it coming. But I feel at the time, and maybe you felt at the time that Matmadov, that was a big upset. Like when just seeing it as it unfolded, did
Do
you
you,
feel?
do you, do you know what? I thought it was a big upset, but I'm not sure if I said it in the preview. I've seen the warning sign from Makhmudov against Takam. So although I expected Makhmudov to win, I wasn't like, it wasn't a crazy out of this world upset. I thought about another upset as well that I didn't think about before. Jordan Gill beating Michael Conlan.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Just
that's recent.
because, just because the fact that Jordan Gill in his prior fight got stopped by an ancient Martinez,
Yeah, you got
an
stopped by
ancient
Kiko.
Kiko Martinez, and I know Michael Conlan's been stopped in both of his world title fights, but he put up a good fight against Lee Wood, arguably winning. Then he was going toe to toe with Lopez, who can punch. So you would think moving up in weight doesn't drain him as much, will give him a bit more punch resistance. And Jordan Gill's not a noted puncher. You would think it's all go signs for Michael Conor because Jordan Gill went life and death with Gurphy, and Gurphy. Condon stopped Gurphying around, so you would think that Condon should win. So I'm going to change my mind actually. I'm going to say that Michael Condon versus Jordan Gill was actually my upset of the year because I just didn't see Jordan Gill winning that and the manner he won it as well.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, even Taylor wasn't really up. That's not upset of the year, but I feel like Taylor was the favorite going into the fight
Yeah,
against
definitely,
Lopez.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Um, but I feel like, yeah, these are real ones you have to think about. I mean, yeah, even I mean now Lomachenko and Haney wasn't really an upset of the year contender. I'm still I mean, I still think that Loma won that, but there you go. I mean, Matt Madoff. The thing is, I mean, Parker. The thing is, like, you got to sort of separate yourself from the consensus because the consensus when everyone's like, yeah, he's gonna win, then he loses. But I was saying with Parker that I could see Parker giving Wilder massive problems, but then I still feel like when it unfolds in front of me, it's still somewhat of a shock. I
You
don't know
would
how.
think that though, just because, like, let's not sugarcoat it. Joseph Park was knocked out by Joe Joyce like a year ago, so you would think a devastating puncher like Wilder would flatten him. Yeah, it's a big upset. Like we know what Parker's about. He's not all of a sudden a top three, top five heavyweight. we know where Parker's at. He's a lower level top 10 heavyweight who every time he stepped up, he's lost. It's harsh to say, but it's the truth. Got good wins on his resume, and obviously now beating Wilder, beating Ruiz, which was close as well. So it shows like Wilder was this supposed Hall of Fame American killing machine with 46 wins, whatever his record is, and you've just let little old Parker from New Zealand just basically have his way with you. So I think it's a big upset because I predicted that Wilder will stop Parker. Wilder will stop Parker within 6 rounds, just because you would think Parker, who's tires in his fights, heavier, slower foot, shaky defense. Simon Keane was catching him a little bit. You would think that Wilder would punch through his defense. So yeah, I think that's a big upset as well, actually.
Yeah. I don't think it's the biggest, but because we could see it, it's like big
Yeah,
upstairs
yeah,
when you couldn't see coming.
yeah,
But I guess with our boxing knowledge, sometimes we can still kind of see it come. Not like we know we can see points as to how and why it might happen, but
yeah.
and then there's also Zhili Zhang versus Joe Joyce, the first fight. Um, Most people were not predicting that that was going to happen in the dominant fashion. It happened as well.
Exactly.
Um, I mean, but I just have to go with the Matmadov Ajit Kabayel because
Yeah,
I knew what Caballero could do, but I didn't think he had the power necessarily. I couldn't.
exactly.
I never saw Matt Caballero winning by knockout. That just wasn't in my mind. Um, I think if you placed a bet on that, you'd be quids in and you would have made a lot of money. Ajit
Also,
Caballero by
yeah,
stoppage.
exactly. And also, he took Matmadov punch as well, which is surprising because we've seen him hurt multiple times, Cabello. Seen him
Yeah.
hurt in his last fight and seriously hurt as well in his last fight. See him get hurt by Kevin Johnson. So yeah, I think that's a very valid point actually. I could definitely hear that Matmadov losing in the fashion he did as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I looked at Matt Madov's Instagram to see what his reaction to it was, and he's saying he broke his hand in the second
Yeah,
round.
yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But it
mean,
was still, even in the first round, though, he was getting that box. He was very clumsy, so you can't really just blame it on a broken hand. You know what I mean?
would you see a rematch between those two?
I think they should, but I just can't see how Makhmedov beats him. Not even just saying this in hindsight. I think he's too slow foot, very clumsy, and I think Caballero, even if he didn't want to stop him, could just maneuver his way around the ring and beat him on points.
Yeah,
And Makhmedov's gas tank, it looks really bad.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. I mean, Matt Madov, I've seen him box in the amateurs. This is the only thing. So I don't know if he's just choosing to use this style because he's falling in love with his power. He wasn't a master boxer, but when I'm watching him against Vianello, he can box better than what he did against Ajit Caballel. Um, and he can go rounds because I've seen him do it against Takam. I've seen him
Takam,
go
yeah,
a
yeah,
few rounds
yeah.
against Jonathan Rice. So maybe the occasion got to him. Maybe he fell in love with his power. Um, I don't know, but I'm going to go with that as my upset because not just for the result, but also the manner as well. Because even though I could see Matt Madov running into trouble at some point, one, I didn't think it'd be Ajit Caballel. Two, I didn't think it would be the manner and as decisive as it was. And that really was decisive because,
Yeah,
wow,
100%.
I don't know if that was just he was having an off day, but if he is going to be in trouble like that when he gets hit to the body, he's gonna he could. I saw people saying David Price, the Russian David Price. We Who knows, man? Because
Yeah,
if
yeah.
he falls like that every time someone sinks in the body shot, he's in trouble. Um,
Big trouble.
but either way, yeah, I'm going with Matt Madov. So let's see what the next one is. I'm gonna say last but not least, performance of the year. What's your performance of the year?
My performance of the year. My performance of the year. Oh, I would say Inoue Fulton
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was brilliant.
because Stephen Fulton isn't a bum. Stephen Fulton's at the time, you could say probably pound for pound number 12 or something like that. He was very close to the top 10 pound for pound, beating very good names, beating Figueroa, beating Roman. Do you know what I mean? And then Inoue, who's moved up in weight, by the way, not even had a warm-up fight, he's moved up straight in weight, stopped him in 7 rounds. Yeah, I'm saying Inoue versus Fulton.
I'm going with that. I'm going with that because Fulton was meant to be the boxer. He didn't win a
Exactly.
round.
Exactly.
Um,
He's meant to be the boxer, and he got outboxed.
exactly, and then stopped, and it was decisive as well. And you almost felt sorry for him in there.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
So I would go with that. Other worthy mentions though is Crawford's performance against Spence, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Zhili Zhang's second fight against Joe Joyce, in my
true,
opinion.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I know he's your cousin. It's not quite up there, but I think it's worth a mention. Joshua versus Wallin, the
Yeah,
decisiveness
exactly.
of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Because
Um,
Warren is yeah, he's not top five, but Warren did beat Gassiev, who is a name, beat
yeah,
Brazil, beat Kaufman, gave Tyson Fury a very good fight, and Joshua dispatched of him light work. Like that was a that was an easy fight for him. Like not even just that was a very, very easy. He made the fight very easy for himself. So I think that's a very big performance. Because if let's say, for example, that was Fury who did that while he was a champion, they'll be saying, "Oh, Fury's this, Fury's that, Fury's that." The same way they were going on against how he was against Dylan White. So yeah, I think that's definitely a worthy to mention. I still think Inoue versus Fulton just because it was champion versus champion.
yeah.
But in terms of like performances, I'd definitely say that's top three performances of the year, 100%.
Yeah,
Joshua
that's
versus Wallin.
definitely in the top, man. Definitely in the top because of how easy he made it look.
Yeah,
And how it almost looked effortless in there. And whenever he turned it up, Walling was instantly in trouble. So it
yeah,
was like
yeah,
it. I feel like it was very good. I'd say if that is an 8 out of 10, I'd have to put Jili Zhang's second performance, maybe as an 8.5 or a 9, just for the fact that I feel like he one he put Joyce down.
yeah,
And two, I just think just slightly more he kind of put I'd say he put Joyce slightly in more trouble. I think like he kind of shut Joyce down a bit mentally because I feel like when you're watching Wallin, although he was in there and he was concerned, he was still trying. I feel like Joe Joyce stopped. Not that he stopped, he was still in the fight physically, but I feel like Joe Joyce mentally kind of checked out the fight in the second one.
yeah, 100%.
I
After he
feel
felt those straight lefts, he's just thinking, what can I do to keep this guy off?
I feel like he kind of checked out the fight mentally. But I feel like Otto Wallin, for all he was taking, he was still trying. I don't know. I mean, he did quit, but I don't know if that was his corner or I don't know how that.
He definitely was
Uh,
trying because he tried to counter Joshua, so he definitely was trying. I don't want to hear this narrative of, oh, he wasn't trying. He definitely was trying, but maybe he was trying a bit too much because when he tried to throw, that's when he was getting countered.
yeah, he tried the straight left, got countered with a left hook by Joshua, and he went flying
Yeah,
across
yeah,
the
yeah,
ring.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I felt like he didn't even know where he was for 1 second. He almost like he looked at the floor or he looked somewhere else, and he looked like maybe for a second he didn't know where he was
yeah,
when he got hit
yeah.
with that left hook. But yeah, worthy mention. But I'm gonna go with the new A as well. So those are our sort of round off for this year. I'm hoping next year is gonna be even better. I I made this video, man, about Anthony Josh versus Deontay Wilder, the fight that never happened on one of my other channels. But I want to mention that here. It's crazy, man. Like if that fight never happens, it's just so disappointing to me.
It's this generation's Lewis versus Riddick Bowe,
Yeah, because
and it's happened obviously due to multiple reasons. Wilder had the chance to take it with 100 million with when DAZN offered him. He turned it down, fired his team member, then had the chance to take it multiple times, but he didn't want to cross the street. Now the Saudis are coming, forced him to cross the street because the money's like it's too much to turn down, and he didn't hold his end of the bargain. People might still say, "Oh, let's see Joshua versus Wilder now." There's no upside of Joshua fighting Wilder at all. There's no upside. If you make that fight, it's like, why are you gonna risk it for what? Wilder hasn't got a high ranking, hasn't got a belt, hasn't it hasn't no appeal. So that fight just makes no sense. Like I say, I'm not writing off Deontay Wilder just yet. But just because he can come back in 2024, get a big win against Ruiz, knocks him spark out, then he's back. So I'm not writing Wilder off, but for now, he needs to get a marquee win. So
yeah,
for Wilder, I think the Joshua Wilder fight isn't dead, just as Wilder could get a marquee win against a top five. Has to be top five. So either run it back with Parker, knock him out, or beat him convincingly. Fight Ruiz or fight Zhang. If you beat one of those guys convincingly, then the spark is back on. Just because boxing fans are like prisoners of the moment. One
Yeah.
minute you're on top of the world, next minute you're bottom. So the fight isn't dead, but for now it is. But that is up to Wilder to revive that fight. Joshua can't do anything. He's gonna go on his route, whether that's the vacant title or whatever. So it's all down to Wilder and his team. If they really want to fight, risk it. Fight Zhang, fight Ruiz, fight Parker again. Because you definitely have the beating of Parker. That's for a different video. But all those fights I mentioned, I would make all of the other guys favorites. But if Wilder won, I would not be shocked,
Yeah.
especially against Ruiz, because I think Ruiz is a sitting duck for Wilder's right hand.
Yeah, me too. I think that.
So exactly. So if I'm Team Wilder and I still want to stay in boxing, I'm on the phone to Al Heyman, Amazon, and I'm saying let's make Ruiz versus me headline. Don't even make it pay-per-view. That fight isn't about money. That's about getting the most eyes on your fight. People thinking you're done because I think Bookie's favorite people will be thinking Ruiz smokes Wilder. I don't think that. I think Wilder actually, if he's got anything left, I think he'll knock out Ruiz. But it's about taking these big fights, maybe trying to revive your career, and we'll see what goes on after that.
Yeah, man.
Even sorry to cut you, but even not even a big fight, even a Dubois or someone, Dubois riding high. Like I say, I'm impressed with the Miller win, but I'm not as impressed with other people. I think you know my thoughts on that fight. I thought it would take him out early anyway. But Dubois on people's mind. You need to fight these people like a Caballero or any of these lot that are on a card. Fight them. If you win by knockout in devastating fashion, you're back.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You made some great points there, man. And I just wonder if Wilder, if they gave him a couple knockover jobs and then tried to make the Joshua fight be if it'd be more viable and safer route. I mean, maybe are they gonna learn? Maybe, maybe not. It seems like history is always going to repeat itself in the sense of they want to make fights, so they're gonna give people interim fights and someone's gonna lose the interim fight. It just seems like it's gonna be that's just what it's gonna be, whether it's in America, Saudi, UK. It just
Yeah,
seems like
yeah, yeah.
that's the thing. But I just want to say there was one thing I mentioned in on my other channel, and I want to run this by you. I'm not saying Joshua and Wilder are the best fighters ever, but I'm saying if they fought in 2017, 2018, that fight may have been the biggest fight in boxing history. And I mean
100%.
more, I'm talking Rumble in the Jungle, I'm talking all the big fights have happened. I reckon that that fight, people don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that's another thing. If you think like, I'm not saying they're the best fighters ever. I'm saying the fight itself may have been the best, the biggest fight in boxing history if it was made in 2017, 2018.
I think the best time to make the fight was before Wilder fought Brazil and before Joshua fought Ruiz. That 2019 hotspot, that was the perfect time. Both undefeated, both knockout artists. That would have been huge. In the UK, I'm not even, I reckon that could have done 2 million pay-per-views easily.
I think,
100%.
yeah,
Streaming wasn't right then as well. So I think that would have done 2 million pay-per-views. I think worldwide, if they marketed it well, did a worldwide tour, I think that would have been very close to Mayweather numbers in terms of not against McGregor, but against Pacquiao, against Patton. I think those that would have been huge. And I don't think any fight now in boxing would be bigger than that fight in
nah,
2019 at all.
that
There's no
fight,
fight in boxing because we've probably actually seen the biggest fight that could be made in boxing this year, in terms of Ryan Garcia and Javante Davis. That's actually probably the biggest fight in terms of the two biggest stars in boxing.
fanfare, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest fight, and it did very good numbers, did over a million, but it just if that fight happened in 2019, ooh, that would have been a huge spectacle, huge, huge. Like the UK would come to a standstill because it did against Klitschko. So imagine what it would have done against Wilder. It would have come to a standstill. I think that would have been big in America, Africa. That would have been huge in Africa. So yeah, yeah, 100%. That's it's a shame. It's a shame.
It is, man. As I say, I honestly believe maybe even more than Ali Foreman. I'm saying I think that fight could have been the biggest fight in boxing history. And even if it was made today or before Wilder fought Parker, it still would have been a big, big fight. And I'm gonna run this by you as well before we finish up. I people, if Joshua Wilder was made now, that even though Joshua lost to Usyk and Wilder lost to Fury, if that fight was made, that would have before Wilder went and lost to Parker, that fight would have been bigger than Fury
Oh,
and Usyk.
100%.
No one
100%. I
talks to
said
me
this
about
exactly.
this.
Like no one, people don't know that Fury and Usyk are fighting. This is the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, and people know about the double header card more than they do about undisputed. It shows who the real star of the heavyweight division is. Always has been. I think the narrative of oh, Fury's a new star. Pay-per-view numbers don't lie. Fury's not done a million in the UK, and this is when everyone thought he was invincible and unbeatable, and he can beat this person and that person. So pay-per-view numbers don't lie. Um, prior, I think if Joshua Wilder fought prior to him losing to Parker, that does 1.5 easily in the UK. Easily in the UK. Would have been big in America as well. Would have done a worldwide tour. You know, the Saudis have a budget for the promo. We saw it against the Day of Reckoning. So I think that would have been a big, big showdown. It's a shame, but it might sound harsh, but if you are a world level fighter, you should be beating Parker.
Yeah, I mean, styles make fights, but I definitely see what you mean. And I feel like, the casuals, people might laugh at the casuals, but the casuals are the ones that put the money in fighters' pockets,
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
because we're scrutinizing these fights. We're saying, I'm not paying for this, I'm not paying for that because this guy hasn't done anything or this guy's scamming the fans or whatever. But the casuals don't care about any of that. The casuals are the main spending power in boxing. They're
Well,
the ones that
look at the biggest pay-per-view fight in boxing. What was it? Mayweather's McGregor.
exactly when that
Hardcores
fight.
knew that it was an easy fight, but casuals generally thought that it was a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working in a supermarket, my manager came up to me and was like, "Who's gonna win, Mayweather or McGregor?" Like that's what I mean, casuals and like, I get casuals talking to me from time to time about, who you think is gonna win this, who do you think is gonna win that. No one has come up to me apart from maybe my friend Adam, who like he knows a bit more about boxing because obviously he chills with me, but in terms of like just people who I kind of just see out and about, no one has come up to me and said, "Who do you think is going to win, Fury or Usyk, or Fury and Usyk are fighting? That's a big event." No one has mentioned Fury Usyk to me at all, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very
Yeah, yeah, it's mad. Like, do I think it'll do a million pay-per-views? Potentially, if they market it, but it's not a. This is an undisputed fight with the so-called greatest heavyweight of all time. That's what people are labeling Fury. You should be doing a million pay-per-views. It's not hard, but do I think it'll do a million pay-per-views? No. I don't actually think it will in the UK. In the UK, I don't think it will. I think it will do high 800s, but I don't think it will do a million just
well,
because they don't have the appeal.
Usyk's English isn't good enough to sell the fight. Like, I'm not disrespecting the guy. His English is better than my Ukrainian, but at the same time, like his English isn't good enough to really capture the feeling of the fans.
Yeah, yeah,
Fury's not very marketable in my opinion. That he the only time that and I don't like it, but in terms of if you're being really cynical, the only time he's marketable is when he starts talking about mental health. And
and people have had enough of that act as well.
I think he's rode that bike now.
Yeah,
So I don't think he's really, I don't think he's marketable. I think he can come across sometimes to people as quite vulgar. So
yeah, 100%. Like
I don't,
it's yeah, yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
so he's not marketable in my opinion. He's a hard sell. I don't buy this superstar thing. I don't buy it. He's a hard sell. And Usyk isn't really outside of maybe Ukraine and Poland. Um he's not really that superstar in all honesty. He hasn't cracked the US market. He hasn't cracked the UK market really. So yeah, that fight, no one's really paying attention to it. It just goes to show you that, belts don't equal status in terms or clout.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And it's crazy. Joshua Wilder, if that got made, if Wilder did his job, that would have been a big that would have people would have been talking about that one. Um,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, but either way, we've had our roundup. I'm looking forward to next year for boxing next year in general and this channel as well. Really looking
Yeah.
forward to that. And yeah, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so we get a notification. So we'll give you a notification when we make a new video. Make sure you keep checking our channel for updates. Make sure you enjoy your New Year Eve plans, wherever it is you're doing, whether it's a live one, a quiet one. We will see you next year and we'll be back with plenty of content. And with that, we will see you on the next video.